move around too much because I have a new setup here for our YouTube family. So yeah, I'm going to try not to make too much feedback noise on the mic, but I'm really excited to be here with you today. Thank you for joining me. My name is Sarah. If you haven't caught me here on YouTube before, or if you're new to the podcast, welcome. I want to speak to you today about something quite personal. However, something that I am deeply, deeply passionate about, and that is receiving an overflow for your art. Now, here's a little bit of a history for you around me and my lineage and my connection to creativity and money and art and all the things. So I have come from a very creative family. My grandmothers, both of my grandmothers, were incredibly creative. They were actors, they were seamstresses, they were painters. They did so much. My dad as well is an incredibly talented creative. However, none of my family have ever pursued creativity in a formal sense. They've never made it into a job or a career. A hobby status is where it has been for them, and that is okay. But that is not my story, and that is not what I know I'm here to do in this lifetime. And so this conversation today is around my journey into receiving an overflow for my creative gifts. Now, this journey started like a lot of creative journeys start with just the urge to make things, the urge to create whatever wants to flow through you. And this is our connection. This is our connection to source energy. This is our connection to that infinite flow of possibility and potential, this wild creative energy that we are gifted as artists and creatives. And for me, it began with just making mandalas. I was drawing mandalas. I was drawing fashion illustration because that's what had my heart at the time. And I thought, okay, what do I do? How do I monetize this? How do I make this my job? Because that was the goal, I was teaching at the time. And so I would run these, I would go to these markets, these art markets, sit there all day long, maybe sell one or two $10 or $20 prints, and usually to my family members. And that started reiterating this story, this paradigm of the starving artist. And I realized that it had been woven so deeply into my subconscious, into how I saw myself as a creative and what I allowed myself to receive. So I knew that the markets was not a thing. I knew that there was another way to do this. And so, of course, I followed my soul. I followed what was lighting me up. And at that time, it was actually graphic design. I taught myself how to use Photoshop, how to use those graphic design programs, and started an online graphic design business, which is now Sacred Made Studio, my luxury design studio for visionary women in the world who are doing amazing things. But they just started off with me following my creative urges, following what was exciting me. And who knew that it would be design, learning this complicated, multi-layered design program, but it was. And so I started to charge differently for my work. And I started to realize that actually this could be my work. This could be my career. This could be what I devote my life to. This could be what I allow to support me financially. And so I continued on. And of course, these layers of the starving artist came up. And in particular, one past lifetime that I viscerally experienced, which was me as a literal starving artist. I won't go into that lifetime, but that has influenced a lot of what has come up to be processed and transformed in this lifetime. Because as we heal ourselves in our present lifetime, we are healing past and future and all timelines. And so that has been a really pivotal part of my journey, but it's also been this incredible access point to overflow, to financial wealth and stability from my art, which I never knew was possible. I didn't even know that it was in my realm. As I said, none of my family have ever been paid artists. None of them have ever been artists that have made careers out of their creativity. And so I am the first person in my immediate family to own $1 million home. I'm the first person in our immediate family to have a soul-led business, to have my own business, and to be receiving from that, to be receiving multiple six figures through the work that I have created and brought into the world. And this is the key thing that I want to remind you, and I want to bring this whole conversation back to, is that what courses through you, this creative flow, this creative energy, is source frequency, is designed to move through you from frequency into form. And I'll tell you what, your creativity, your art probably comes so easily to you, so naturally to you, that you assume like, well, how could I get paid really well for doing this? Aren't I supposed to be working really hard to create money? But not everybody has that access to that overflow. Not everybody can create the way that you create and what you create. The artists and the creatives in this time are literally here to architect New Earth. They are bringing frequency, source frequency, their soul's frequency into form, into creations, into businesses, into artwork, into experiences. And when you allow this flow to move through you, your life becomes a living transmission of frequency, of energy. And so it's twofold, the gift that you have. One, you are literally visioning and bringing that God realm information into physical form through your creations. And two, you are the state of being that you access when you're in your creative flow is a transmission, is shifting the frequency of our planet just by you holding that, transmitting it in your day-to-day life. It doesn't even need to have an outcome, the artwork that you're creating. It is the state of being that you occupy that is what is allowing this whole thing to be an energy transmission and to raise the consciousness of our planet. And so it's big. It's big, even though it can feel at times like you don't have access to that flow. Sometimes as artists, we allow that great flood of creative energy through us, which is, like I said, just energy, that creative flow. But we don't allow the resources to flow. We don't allow the money to flow. And so why? Why do we do that? Why are we allowing this flood of energy to come through our creativity, our art, our joy, but not allowing this flood of energy, this money, the resources, the opportunities? Can you see how when we give our power away to this starving artist paradigm, which is so done, by the way, when we do that, we cut ourselves off from that flow of receiving. As we create, we receive. And there's a very, very powerful activation that has come through around this that I'm going to be teaching actually for free in a new transmission series called Luminous Opulence, which is basically living in the luxury of your own light, living in the luxury of your creative flow, and actually now tapping into receiving for your creative gifts. Because if you're like me, you've probably felt at times like, am I even supported to be creative? Is my art even going to be supported by the divine? Am I going to receive for following my creative flow, for bringing this into the world? And even just that question in itself is an absolute paradigm that we are ready to close and end. Because of course you are. Like I said, this is a gift. You and your creative energy is a gift to the world. One, because you are bringing frequency into form, literally through your creations. And two, the state of being that you possess, the presence that you have, that creative flow is source energy. And when you allow that into your body and you are in that creative flow, that state of being, you are transmitting that out to the world. So of course you are going to receive that. And the activation that I'm bringing through in Luminous Opulence, it's a bit of a mouthful, is really around intertwining those two things. We're going to be using the symbolism of DNA to intertwine your creative flow and your money flow. We're going to bring them together and lock them together so that as you create, you receive in overflow, because that's the way it's always meant to be. So if you would like to join Luminous Opulence, then it is free. I will link it below. It's a Telegram broadcast channel. There will be 3 transmissions, including that activation in there, and there is so much information that's coming through for this. So I would love for you to experience it and receive it and actually start to become the artist of overflow, the artist who creates an overflow and allows themselves to receive an overflow, because that is what you're here for. That's what it's all about. So come and join below, and I will see you in there. Speak to you next.